Welcome to the Configure Price Quote podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. This podcast is going to be a little bit different from our typical podcast episodes in that we will focus our discussion on entrepreneurship instead of CPQ. This is hopefully a very exciting episode for all startup firms because they will hear from a very successful entrepreneur, Travis Parigi. Travis was the co-founder and CEO of LiquidFrameworks, which was sold to ServiceMax for $148 million in 2021. He is a software entrepreneur with 20 plus years of experience, primarily within the energy industry, and lives with his family in Houston, Texas. I'm very excited to have him back on the CPQ podcast after 4 years. Welcome, Travis, to the CPQ podcast.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate you having me here again. I'm excited to talk to you.
I'm very excited that you took the time and actually do that because, as I said in the introduction, I think a lot of startup entrepreneurs probably can learn a lot from you. And so it's very nice of you to take the time to talk a little bit about it. Let's start by telling us a little bit more about how you got started as a software entrepreneur.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been involved with software since I was very young. So actually since the early 80s, and wrote software for small businesses in the town that I grew up in, east of Houston here. And then commercially, really after college, I got into it in 2000. So I had been working for a software consulting company for about 5 years and was specifically working for .com companies. And things didn't go so well, obviously, in the .com space back in that time frame. And whenever the firm that I was working for actually ended up going out of business, we had recently sold a large consulting engagement to Schlumberger, the world's largest oilfield service provider in the upstream space. And I went back to Schlumberger and said, hey, I know that you guys still need this product built and I kind of still need a job. And so do these handful of guys that are on the team. So I started a small consulting company and we built a product for them that did wireline configuration work. And over the years of doing a lot of work for them, I kept seeing this same problem as it relates to field service management. So collecting field data at a well site, for instance. And around 2005, I decided to start a business that was exclusively focused on it. And that became LiquidFrameworks. And we built out a product for a couple of years and just went full force into the upstream oil and gas service provider market, trying to sell field ticketing and eventually a CPQ module.
Excellent. And I already mentioned it in the introduction, right? So that you sold LiquidFrameworks to ServiceMax last year. What are you especially proud of in regards to LiquidFrameworks and the M&A with ServiceMax?
Well, I'd say the speed at which we were able to drive up the value of the business is certainly noteworthy. Specifically, we signed the purchase agreement with ServiceMax in the spring of 2021, and that was less than 3 years after completing a transaction with Luminate. That was the private equity company in San Francisco that I had done the transaction with in end of 2018. And ServiceMax is it's a great company. It's got great investors in Silver Lake and GE and Salesforce, just fantastic investors in ServiceMax. Those are obviously marquee names in the space. And I'm just really proud to have landed the company at ServiceMax. In terms of the match, I don't think it could have been a better match. We were both working on similar problems in field service management. From a market perspective, both companies are in the field service management industry, but we didn't have any industry overlap from an industry competition perspective. From a technical perspective, both companies are native products built on the Salesforce platform. I mean, that was super unique. We really, over a lot of years spending time in that space, there's just really hardly anybody doing what we were doing other than ServiceMax on the Salesforce platform. And I would say just all those things made for great common ground on which to combine the businesses. And overall, I couldn't be happier with where LiquidFrameworks landed and the M&A transactions that we ended up doing over a very short period of time.
Excellent. So one question I have to ask, obviously, is what did you do personally after you left the merged company earlier this year?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a super active person, and after leaving, I ended up with quite a bit of extra time that I haven't had in, I mean, ever really. So, just being an active person and into working out, I really dialed up my fitness level. So this December, I'll complete my third half Ironman. Super excited about that. But as far as business is concerned, I've spent quite a bit of time advising some early stage software businesses. That's been a really great experience. It's real satisfying to be able to leverage a couple of decades of experience and knowledge as it relates to technology and software and energy, and help other aspiring companies try to make some progress. So yeah, a lot of stuff related to working out, and a lot of stuff related to software.
Excellent. We talk more about that in a minute. But one question also is, what are you planning to do next now? You don't retire right now, I assume,
yeah.
right?
No, definitely not going to retire. I'm going to start another software company. I'll probably look at that at some point next year. I have, for the last, I guess, 25 years since I've been in software, from post-college type time, I have been tracking a document that has made its way from WordPerfect to Word to Evernote, now to NoteJoy. And this document has all these different ideas that I've come up with over the years. And obviously, I've been spending the last 17 years on LiquidFrameworks and FieldFX. But now, having some renewed time on my hands, I'm able to go back into this document and look at a lot of these ideas and really decide which one might be the next software company that I start. So I'll definitely start another software company. I'm not 100% sure which one I'm going to do out of this doc. I've got it narrowed down to about 3 different ideas. So I'm just playing with these 3 different ideas a little bit right now, and we'll most likely do something more material with one of them probably mid next year, I would say. And it may not even be in the energy industry. Some of these are totally different outside the energy industry. So definitely software, though. I love to build. At the end of the day, I absolutely love to build software.
That's very cool. But it also begs one question, right? So now, since you achieved so much success with the company, what motivates you to keep going?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I just, like I was saying, I just love to build software. I mean, at an early age, whenever I first learned basic programming back in, I guess it was 1983, I was just enamored and fascinated and enthralled with the ability to put in code to a machine and watch that machine do exactly what I wanted to do. The level of control was just, I don't know, it was just really, really enriching for me. So that's a big motivator for me. Also, just taking what I've learned and being able to grow something new and doing it again in a compressed time frame, that's very motivating. I mean, LiquidFrameworks took me a long time to get where it ended up, and I definitely think that I could do that again on a much, much faster scale. So I would just say, in general, just building software is it's so fun to do that, and then being able to do it at scale now with the technology that's out there. I mean, when you go look at the tools that are available to use today, it's just, I mean, it just draws you to it. If you're a software engineer like I am, I mean, it just really draws you to want to use all these incredible tools that are out there that allow you to do things so much more quickly than we could do even 8 years ago, 8 years ago. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to see what you're able to do so quickly.
No, and I can hear it when you talk about it, right? So you're really passionate about it. So, which I think is very good, and is probably one thing you need anyway if you run your own business. If you're not really passionate about it, it's probably going to be some tough times along the way. But even when you are, there are some, so don't want to minimize that. One thing I also wanted to ask is more on a personal level, right? So, what do you do when you don't work these days?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, my wife and I have 12-year-old twins, boy-girl twins, along with a 5-year-old boy. He just turned 5. So they actually keep us quite busy running them from sports and activities and all that kind of stuff. I know most people can relate to that. And this has really been a great breakthrough opportunity to spend even more time with them. So that's been really fantastic. Outside of that, I mean, I'm a huge climber. I love rock climbing. I love ice climbing, mountaineering, just anything in the mountains. And then recently I've kind of reinvigorated my triathlon interests. I mean, I used to do a lot of triathlons years and years ago, but I've kind of reinvigorated that over the last, say, year and a half. But a lot of kid stuff, climbing and Ironman. You can't do a lot of climbing in Houston, obviously. But we've got a place up in Colorado that we've had for a long time. And so I try and get up there as much as I can and go to places like Rocky Mountain National Park, El Dorado State Park, and just all kinds of good climbing up there, obviously.
Oh no, that's super exciting. We've talked about this before, right? So I think that's really very exciting what you do there. But I want to ask you something different. So with your kids, what kind of sports do they do?
Well, they're into baseball, softball, gymnastics. Just the 5-year-olds even into softball. Baseball now. So yeah, mainly baseball and softball. My son also plays football as well. So seems like all kinds.
And very cool. And you volunteer with helping with practice or stuff like that, so coaching.
Well, I did coach my son's soccer team many years ago, but haven't done any coaching of late. But happy to do as much volunteering as far as driving around and bringing drinks and snacks and whatever I can there.
Yeah, that definitely keeps you busy with 3 kids, no question about it. Okay, so let me now switch over and ask you a couple of questions that are really software entrepreneur specific kind of thing, right? So what do you think, what are the 3 most important habits that you need to become a successful software entrepreneur?
The 3 most important habits. Well, I would say one of the most important habits is just continually reevaluating the product as it relates to what I would say are the 3 most important things, the 3 hallmarks that I like to look for in terms of what makes a really good product. And those 3 things would be reliability, usability, and performance. So that was kind of my trifecta mantra that I just would repeat over and over for years and years and years at LiquidFrameworks, was that the product has to be reliable. It has to be something that people can depend on, and it does what it is supposed to do. And then after that, next in line, it's got to be usable. It's got to be something that's fairly intuitive, that people understand, that doesn't take days and days of training. And finally, it's got to be performant, meaning when its functionality is doing what it needs to do, it needs to be doing it in a quick fashion so that people aren't sitting there waiting. So I would say just always reevaluating that, always ensuring product market fit. I mean, that's probably the most important habit, at least for me, it was at LiquidFrameworks, in order to produce a great product. And then after that, I would say persistence and patience would be the next 2 things. Persistence meaning just continually working on the product and the end goal, and being patient enough to not give up or get discouraged or frustrated after it doesn't work. And when I say patience, I mean, for me, it was years and years of patience. I mean, we didn't sell a single customer for the first 2 years. We spent 2 years just building the product and demoing it and iterating over it. So it just took a tremendous amount of patience before we got any real validation from the market. And then if I was going to add maybe a 4th habit, it would be trying to stay up on what's taking place as far as technology, and really ensuring that you keep that technical background sharp. I think it's easy for an entrepreneur, if you weren't as passionate about building software as I might be, to kind of let that get taken over by the technical group, and maybe you move on to the other things that are tasked with the CEO role. But staying super focused on the technology and ensuring that you're doing the right thing and making the right decisions technically, I think is huge. Because at the end of the day, I mean, for me, at least, I always believe and still believe that it's the product. At the end of the day, it's the product that makes everything else work. I mean, that's the tip of the spear, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. I think that's a lot of good tips, right? So, and I probably would have to listen myself twice to it to make sure I'm not missing anything. So, but based on all the things you said, what was really your favorite part, or your favorite task on a day-to-day basis running a software company?
Yeah, my favorite is really watching the product mature over time in an iterative fashion. So being able to go get feedback from a customer, from users, bring that back to the team, go through the sort of requirement refinement, and then figuring out a way to get it into the product such that it makes sense for the general markets, of vetting it with the rest of the market in the design phase, and then ultimately seeing it manifest itself in terms of functionality that's actually working in the product. And of course, it's great to get the positive feedback from the end customer. But for me, really, like, the favorite thing was literally to see the demos and the product, like to put my hands on it and play with it and actually see that, hey, this thing is doing exactly what we need it to do. I mean, I don't know why, but that's just such a satisfying thing for me. It's addictively satisfying for some reason to me.
Novo CPQ Consulting helps you with all CPQ related questions. For example, we help customers to find the best CPQ solution for their business, and we help customers analyze their current business process to determine if and where CPQ can help. Here it's important to point out that we are 100% independent and always look out for our customers first. This means for us also that we don't get paid by any CPQ vendor for providing them new customers or for any other services. We are focused on our customers and always provide the best available information to them. We also help system integrators to improve their services, and we offer the only CPQ industry subscription that provides monthly CPQ news and trends. We have many other services, so check it out today at novocpq.com. Send me an email to frank.zone@novocpq.com to learn how we can help you with your CPQ questions, and keep us in mind when you look for 100% impartial CPQ advice. Wherever there's a favorite thing to do, there's probably also the least favorite thing to do. What was that for you?
Yeah, well, least favorite as far as being a software entrepreneur. Well, I mean, I most enjoyed the engineering and the go-to-market side of the business. But as everybody knows, there are a handful of other areas beyond those parts that probably weren't the most fun for me. So there's some aspects of it that I definitely didn't find to be the most fulfilling, but I was super fortunate to have a phenomenal CFO that handled almost all of those areas and was exceptionally good at it. I mean, just so good at it. So just because it wasn't fun for me doesn't mean that I placed low value on it. I feel like it's extremely valuable. So all the finance and accounting and legal side, I mean, all those types of things are extremely important, the HR side. And I can't stress how important that role was, to have someone that could build out an entire team and handle all those different tasks was huge. It offloaded a tremendous amount off of me and let me focus on what I was really good at. And I would just say to any entrepreneur out there, I mean, once you can afford that role, hire it with the very best person you can find and afford out there, because it was just phenomenal for me to have that person, for sure.
Excellent. And when you look at today, what do you think? What are the biggest challenges a software company faces these days?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, it was certainly a huge challenge at LiquidFrameworks, and I think it remains the case. I think it's finding, retaining the best technical talent out there. It is so hard to find really, really great engineering talent. And I was a big fan of local talent. So we definitely had people that were not in the Houston area, but for the most part, most of our development staff was in Houston for many, many years. I mean, it wasn't until the late years that we started to get our process mature enough that we branched out and had developed staff beyond Houston. But finding and retaining those people is huge. There's huge competition for really great engineers. And that was always a big challenge, I would say. Especially depending on the technology, right? Like our technology was Salesforce. And so once you get into a fairly niche technology that's also in super high demand, well, now you just really magnified the difficulties in finding and retaining talent. But I think that's always been the case in the technology world. Software development's always been a very high demand space. So you really got to make sure you're doing all you can to keep your people happy and make sure they're spreading the word.
Got it. Let's stay with that topic. What would you say about remote work? What worked or didn't work? Because I guess you started that with the pandemic as well.
Well, I mean, I think from a remote perspective, productivity is something that you definitely want to be able to track. And for us, we were lucky in the sense that we had long since put in place a really nice development operation, a DevOps process, basically. And the guy that was running development, Tom Jones, did a really fantastic job of this and was able to track productivity and able to see it from just a pure metrics perspective and analytics perspective. So we were able to ensure that productivity wasn't falling off. I would tell you that I would tell you that the remote work, however, from a cultural perspective, that always struck me as a difficult thing to get my arms around with, because I just came from a world where you build culture being in front of people, being face to face, being able to do ad hoc, quick little meetings, or run off and grab a coffee together, or go take a walk around the building, or go have lunch together. So that's something I think that has definitely suffered, is in terms of the new sort of remote work from home that people are embracing. But the big thing that worked for us is really just the process we already had in place, which was a very, very mature development process that allowed us to see what was going on and ensure that the right stuff was being built according to the timeline that we had set forth. Beyond development, in terms of sales, things like that, that's a very metrics-driven organization already, as is marketing and building marketing funnels. So we had all those things in place to track all the different leads that come in and the numbers, and tracking all the things that the sales team's doing. So you have to stay on top of that. It becomes harder, I would say. I'm not the biggest fan of the remote work change, but we seem to make it work. It's more challenging, though, I would say. It certainly, though, opens up more recruiting ability, but it also means you have more competition in that area, too.
Got it. Now, I want to ask you something I think that is neglected by a lot of the startup companies in the beginning, right? So that's the effort they should put into marketing and sales. What's your thought on that? How important was that for you in the beginning, sales and marketing?
Yeah, well, it's enormous. I would say right after product, the go-to-market strategy is just it's right there up at the top. And if we're talking about enterprise software, which would be the case for most B2B CPQ products, I would think there are a number of things that I would consider as far as sales and marketing is concerned. But one of the first things that I would do, and I didn't do this, I shouldn't say I didn't do it. I didn't do a great job of it early in the business. It took a number of years before we really got our hands around this. But I would say one of the first things that I would do, if it is a B2B enterprise software product in the CPQ space, I would name the market. I would physically go through and name the market that you're going after. It likely isn't 50,000 companies, 20,000 companies. That's probably not the case. It is probably a much smaller market. It's probably in the order of maybe thousands or even hundreds. And if that's the case, then you can really understand each of those companies. You can do things like determine what's the size of each of these target companies. And I mean size as far as revenue is concerned, EBITDA and employee count, and break it down by geography. You can take all those numbers and layer that into a financial model, put in your expected revenue profile. What does that look like? And then you can back into things like, well, how many account executives do we need? How big do we need our go-to-market team to be? We can calculate our marketing funnel and figure out what do we need in terms of leads to feed that team. And then once we have all that information, we can go and hire and execute against it. So I didn't really do that great of a job early stage company in that area. It wasn't until much later in the business's life cycle, and really after I was lucky enough to have a guy named Dave Levitt from Salesforce join the company, that he really broke that stuff out and showed me how that worked. That was kind of a light bulb moment for me. And it just really, it's really when things turned up and really the growth just went phenomenal once we really got our hands around that.
Excellent. Now, the next question is what a lot of these early startup entrepreneurs wait for in the back of their mind is to get some funding at one point, right? So you did it. What would you say when should you start looking for it, and how did you go about this?
Yeah, well, when you should start looking, I would say as late as possible. I mean, not saying anything bad against raising money or anything, but it's expensive in terms of equity. So the later that you can go, the better. I founded the business in 2005, and I didn't raise VC money until 2012. So we had revenue going, we had a great product, and we had customers. So I think that helped a lot in terms of valuation, in terms of founder equity retention, stuff like that. But the way that I went about it is, in the beginning, I was just bootstrapping it with profits from my consulting company that I'd started, which was just building custom software for companies. But I was just taking all the profits from that business and just funneling it into this effort, and it was really just bootstrapping it. I raised some friends and family money from one family member and one friend. Early stage, it was a very small amount. That was in 2005, late 2005. And then I raised angel money in 2009, and then VC money in 2012. I only spoke to a handful of VCs in Houston. Pretty much all of them turned me down. None of them were interested because the market was very, very niche. It was a very narrow market. So you didn't have this kind of B2C type scale opportunity. It was a B2B play, and I don't think many of them were interested. But luckily, I did have Houston Ventures was interested enough in it, and I had known them for years prior than 2012, and they were nice enough to trust me and ensure that the funding would be there. And so we did that, and then ended up selling the PE in 2018, and then obviously ServiceMax in 2021. But I just went around with my demo and a pitch book that I put together and just showed it to whoever would talk to me from the VC community. And at the time, the VC community, it was super small in Houston. And I didn't even go to Austin back then. I went to Austin for our second A round, but ended up just still raising from Houston Ventures on that second round. But yeah, I put a demo together and went and showed my pitch book and sent emails and called. I mean, it's a very sales oriented type of process, I would say. If you're not good at sales, that's going to be that would be a tough thing. You would want to partner with someone that is.
Very good advice, I think. Now, I want to ask one question for a situation that I guess you probably ran into as well, right? So you have some disagreements with business partners early on. What did you do to solve them, if you had any?
Oh, there were plenty at the board level. I mean, this is a very challenging area. There's a number of things, but I would say that I think you have to work as hard as you can to understand the other side and then make the best decision. I love this quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald, the great Gatsby author. He once said, "The test of first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind simultaneously and still retain the ability to function." I mean, I've had that quote ever since I read that book, and I've read a biography on him. Yeah, I guess it was high school, and it's always resonated with me because I really think you've got to be able to see both sides of the issue, and then as the founder, you got to be able to, at the end of the day, make the right decision. And you probably won't always make the right decision, but I think that if you can try to truly understand the pros and cons of each argument, then at least you're making the best decision at the time. And most of the time, it will be the right decision. At least it ended up being the case for me.
I think that's a lot of good advice again, right? So, and let me close with one thing, maybe. When you look back right now at all the jobs that you've done so far and the business success you have had, what would you say? What was your biggest aha moment so far?
Well, biggest aha was definitely after hiring David Levitt from Salesforce. Once he joined, and I really started to see how a real enterprise software sales engine worked. I mean, that was the light that went on. I mean, I had been just heads down, building product, and just kind of a shotgun approach as far as sales and marketing was concerned. I mean, just talking to anybody that would talk to me and just trying to get the product sold out there. And we did. I mean, we got some sales, but it wasn't like the kind of sales that we were able to do once Dave joined. I mean, he he made a huge difference. I mean, at the same time he joined, that's when we switched it over to the Salesforce platform. I mean, that took a while to make that conversion, that port. But those two things combined were just, wow. I mean, at that point I was like, okay, I get it. I can see how this is truly going to scale and grow like crazy and be something extremely valuable.
That's very cool, and I think that's also how we got to know each other via David.
That's right.
So
that's right. That's right.
So he will be very happy that you mentioned him as the biggest difference maker so far. Excellent, love it. We're already running a little bit over our typical time, but I think that was super interesting. There are probably many more questions I could ask, but we're running out of time. So hence my very last question is, what's a good way for interested listeners to contact you in case they have any follow-up questions for you?
Yeah, LinkedIn and Twitter, same handle on each, T Parigi, TPARIGI.
Excellent. We will have all these links in the show notes. Travis, I think that was awesome. Thank you very much for making time for the CPQ podcast and share a little bit about your software entrepreneur experience.
Thanks, Frank. Really enjoyed it.
I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novocpq.com. So long, everyone.